the past few months, people have been talking more and more about how book reviews perform on YouTube. I think when people stereotypically think of reading channels, they think of book reviews. It's a staple. It makes sense for a book review to be on a book YouTube channel about books. That being said, some people have started to wonder if book reviews actually perform well and if they are actually worth it for a channel that is looking to grow on YouTube. For example, recently Kevin Tolles, in a video he made, asked if book reviews were dead.
Are book reviews dead? Do people even watch them anymore?
It is clear to me that Booktube really does not want book reviews to be dead, and I get that. For example, a few months ago, Carl from Please Read Your Book said in a video that book reviews don't get views. Now, Carl himself is a book reviewer and has tons of book reviews on his channel, so he was by no means saying that book reviews aren't worth it, or that he doesn't like making them, or that you shouldn't make them. But he was saying they don't really tend to get views compared to other videos. This made a lot of people very upset because book reviews are a pillar of the Booktube community, and people didn't want there to be a discussion where people question how worthwhile they are. To be fair, he was never doing that, but there was a lot of comments directed at him to the point where he took down his video, and for a few days took down his channel. When he came back, he said this.
I want to say thank you to people who said nice things, people who were supportive over what I thought was a storm in a teacup. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I'll explain a little bit about that later.
I definitely feel that it would be problematic if people went at him so much personally, but it does show that people really care about book reviews. And honestly, no matter what topic you cover on YouTube, you are going to get people who don't like your take. I have dislikes on my dust jacket history video, and I don't even understand how that could make someone mad or angry or anything like that, so I might as well just say whatever I want. So in this video, we are going to talk about where the discussion is right now, what people are saying about this emerging idea that book reviews might be dead. Second, we're going to talk about how book reviews got me interested in Booktube and why I like them so much. Third, we're going to talk about how I think book reviews did better in the 2010s. Then we're going to talk about why I don't think they're doing as well now, and what we can do about it if we even care. So my take on this is interesting because I'm not really on the side of this isn't an issue, why do people keep bringing it up, book reviews are doing as well as they always have, but I also am not on the side of book reviews are completely dead, so we'll be going at this discussion from that lens. And we'll just see where it goes. I have some points to make throughout this video. The current discussion on book reviews. As this topic has come up more and more throughout the last few months, a lot of people have responded. And I'm just going to talk about some of the popular ones, and I'm not even going to put up specific examples. You can look around and know that this is what people are saying. One thing people are saying is book reviews get less views because they target a much smaller audience. And this makes a lot of sense. A lot of people could have clicked on the video I'm making right now if they are interested in the concept of book reviews or any book review. But to get someone to click on a very specific book review, they oftentimes have to have already read the book and they want to know what someone else is thinking or be thinking about reading the book. Now, I've totally watched tons of book reviews of people who are reviewing books I've never heard of or I don't know if I want to read or any of that. And I think that there is some viewership that fits that, like me, for example, but I think on average, it is going to target a smaller group of people. And I do think that's true. And a lot of people go on to say that a book review generally won't perform as well out of the gate right as you post it because of that. But throughout the years, it will get more and more views because of search. And I think that is partially true. So a lot of people who are saying things like this kind of have the idea that this discussion is coming up right now, but it's always been a problem, it's always been a thing, and it hasn't really changed since the inception of Booktube. Now, there are other people who are like, you need to just realize book reviews are dead. On the original video that I quoted at the beginning of this that asked, are book reviews dead? There is a comment that basically says, if you don't realize book reviews are dead, you are in denial. I'll put that one up. I don't necessarily agree with the book reviews being dead thing from this comment, but I will say that some of the other comments feel a little optimistic to me. For example, the idea that a book review will always get views over time is simplified to the point of not being true. There are instances where a book review can be on your channel for years and it will get thousands of views if it's the right book and if it's the book people are searching for. But a lot of book reviews will just stop getting views just like any other video because no one's searching for it or there's too many reviews already up. And in many cases, you're going to have some that do very well over time and some that don't do well over time. So it's not just weighted out all the time. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that's kind of a side tangent and not really the meat of this discussion. I am going to get back to this topic in a second, but first I want to talk to you about how book reviews got me into Booktube. So there was a time in my young adult life, after graduating high school and leaving my parents' house, where I was still a reader, but I was reading a lot of nonfiction. As a child and as a teenager, I read a lot of fiction, but as a new adult, I was reading history books and just nonfiction all the time, which was great, and I loved that for me. But I got to reignite my passion for reading fiction by watching Booktube. I think I was very, very active on Booktube. Starting in 2017 is when I was starting to watch. 2018, 2019, I was a viewer. I loved Booktube. And at that time, I remember watching tons of book reviews. I was a fan of the channel Thoughts on Tomes. There, a creator named Samantha did a ton of book reviews. She even kind of branded them in an interesting way. If she really liked a book, she called it a gush. If she didn't like a book, she would call it a gripe. And if she thought she was kind of on the fence whether she really liked it or not, she would call it a discussion. So every video felt like there was a little bit of stakes because she put that in the thumbnail. And I wanted to know what she thought of a book, even if I had never heard of the book before. And there were lots of channels that were doing really well in the 2010s with this sort of setup. I will be making some points in this video that stem from this, but we have to remember the data is imperfect because no one cares enough about a niche as specific as Booktube to have really solid data. But you will notice if you go back 10 years on any big Booktube channel now, 10 years ago they were doing book reviews. And just talking about the term Booktube in general, Booktube was brand new in the 2010s. I actually kind of found some stuff online for when the inception of Booktube sort of happened. The term started being used in 2009 or 2010, but it started being used a lot to where there was a group of people who knew what it really meant by like 2015. So in these years, it was new, and a lot of the content that was being put onto Booktube was a little bit more simple. A book review, a book haul without a catchy title, a TBR just to talk about what people are going to read. And we still do this. But if you look at some Booktube channels now that have lots of views and lots of subscribers, there's definitely been more things happening. Why book reviews stopped getting views? Okay, that's obviously hyperbole. Reviews still get views. That's my disclaimer. I was poking around YouTube Studio to kind of look at the channels that my audience watches. If you didn't know, a creator can look at their YouTube Studio and it will say your audience also watches these channels. And one channel that came up for mine that was a bigger Booktube channel is Elliot Brooks, which is great. If you watch her and you watch me, that's flattering. I really like her. I want to show you some of her thumbnails and titles she used for book reviews in the 2010s. Here we have Heartless Book Review, Vicious Book Review, Burial Rites Review, Warbreaker Book Review. Did you hear those titles? When was the last time Elliot Brooks did a book review? Actually, it was about 9 days ago, and it performed averagely for her channel. So Elliot Brooks is still doing book reviews, but they do look different. Here's her most recent book review. Here's a thumbnail, and the title was, I read this new book talk and Booktube darling, and I have thoughts. Here is another recent review she did. She titled it, I despised this character so much it ruined the book for me, dumb characters in books. Those were both book reviews, but she didn't really brand them as book reviews, probably for obvious reasons. You can tell that she's trying to appeal to a wider audience than someone who might just click on a book review with a traditional title. This does sort of come into our discussion on the whole book reviews dying thing, though. I would say book reviews aren't dying, but Booktube has been evolving. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, but it's definitely a thing. Booktube and the attention economy. You might not realize this as you're just picking on videos to watch on your phone, but your attention really matters, and it's not taken for granted. A lot of people want to be YouTubers. I mean, I was a high school teacher for a few years, and there's a lot of kids who just want to put up their phone and make a video, post it online, and become a YouTuber or a TikToker, or specialize in Instagram Reels. There's a lot of people who have that dream, yet you only have so much time and you cannot watch everything. That's just impossible. So, by the way, I'm actually really grateful you're here. Thanks for watching this video, because you definitely didn't have to. If you had told me when I was 8 years old that within 10 to 20 years there would be people who were making full-time incomes from reading, I would think you were pulling my leg. I would say that is definitely not a case. And then I would ask you how to sign up if I actually got to the point of believing you. Booktube in 2025 is established, and there's a lot of people who are full-time creators that have to get views just to put bread and butter on the table. They are needing to have your attention just to keep their channel at a thriving standpoint to be able to continue making it a full-time career. And since Booktube is changing the way that people who are seeking the attention and the views, either because they have to or just because they want to be able to talk to people, like, this is not necessarily a bad thing. But since Booktube is evolving and people are getting used to certain types of thumbnails and titles, people keep doing the tricks and the techniques that they think work. One example of this that I'm seeing more and more enter the space, just like on any other space on YouTube, is titles and thumbnails that trigger something called the curiosity gap. Not everyone knows the term, but tons of creators do this. Basically, the idea of the curiosity gap is when someone reads your title and sees your thumbnail, they know the general topic of the video, but they have no idea what the video is going to say, or there's something missing. There's something that they need to click on the video to find out, because they don't know what you're going to say in your video. Let's talk about my own channel with this. I have a variety of videos on my channel. I haven't really done book reviews on this channel yet, even though I had a past Booktube channel where I did book reviews all the time, so I love them. But I do have videos that still work to demonstrate the difference between a title that has this curiosity gap idea and a title that doesn't. The best performing video on my channel so far is called Books Are Getting Worse and It's Our Fault. My channel is only about 3 months old, and this video has like 32,000 views. That's amazing. And I'm like really grateful for it, but it does sort of have that curiosity gap thing, because it says books are getting worse. You're thinking, wait, what? They are? And you don't really know what I'm going to go at in that video. And it's our fault. And then you think, wait, what? How is it our fault? There's something in that title that you don't know what the video is going to give exactly. You have an idea, but you don't know exactly what I'm going to say, and you kind of want to know, so you click. I have another video on my channel that I'm also very proud of, because I am a nerd and I love history, but the title doesn't really have that curiosity-inducing, clickable idea. And that's called The Evolution of the Dust Jacket, How Utility Became Aesthetic. It might have a little bit of a curiosity gap, but it's not nearly as strong. And the views have not followed that video as much as I have seen them on other videos, and I think that's part of the reason. I also think someone might look at that video and be like, boring, who wants to learn about dust jackets? Like, I'm not trying to go back to school. I get that. But there's also a group of people who might be interested in the idea of dust jacket history, but they look at that and it doesn't feel urgent. They don't feel like they need to click it. So they might be like, oh, I'll watch that later, or I'll think about that later, or maybe I'll watch that. But it's not something that they feel like they need to click on, so it gets fewer views. And I think that is one of many things that is happening to book reviews. Now, I don't have solid data. All I have is my memories of watching Booktube in the 2010s and the ability to scroll back 10 years on channels that later became very successful and started getting their success 10 years ago. And a lot of these channels had book reviews, and I remember watching more book reviews, and I remember there being more just showing up in my feed. So I think that there is something to what people are saying that they are getting fewer views. The data isn't perfect and I could be wrong, but I think part of all of this is what's happening. In the period of short form content and catchier titles on YouTube that are designed to psychologically trigger you to where you want to click to see what's going on, it's really hard to see a video like this author was destroyed on TikTok next to a video that says Oliver Twist book review and choose to click on Oliver Twist book review because you're psychologically almost set up to want to click on the one that triggers your curiosity. And I do think if a creator makes a bad video and clickbaits you, that's a problem. But some creators are just using these tactics because they have to, and they are full-time creators and they need to. So I also have empathy for that. And yet a lot of people are not in this for the views, and they're in Booktube because it's a hobby and it's something you just want to do. So they're not trying to always come up with the cleverest titles to get you to click. And even if they put so much effort into reading a book and reviewing it and editing the video and putting it up, they're not getting as many views now as I think they would have been getting 10 years ago because you are just so put in this position where everything is constantly competing for your attention and the book review goes under the radar. Because even if you're interested in the book, that doesn't feel urgent and maybe you can watch it later. And I would much rather someone's thoughtful review of The Night Watchman get 100,000 views versus Audra Winter Book Talk Drama Part 27, but it's just not what we're seeing right now. What you can do. So I don't think the book review is dead, but I think the internet is getting more and more crafted and designed to really seek your attention and want you to be curious about a topic. And I think sometimes a standard book review doesn't follow that trend, so it might be performing worse than it did 10 years ago. That's my take. But there are still so many channels that do stellar book reviews, and I personally would like to see the book review stay a staple of Booktube because I think that it just makes sense to be, because it's actually directly talking about a book. And that's what we're kind of trying to do. I recently started watching Alana Estelle, is that her name? I think that's her name, but I'll put it up here, channel. She does tons of really good book reviews, and I've been watching some of these, and I think she does a great job. She doesn't title them in like one of those different ways that you see a lot of the big channels doing. She's just titling them straightforward. It's a really solid review. She puts a lot of effort into it, and I've really been enjoying that channel. And I would like to see channels like hers succeed. And I would say don't worry, because even if a lot of people aren't watching book reviews, and even if they might be being watched less now than they were 10 years ago, a lot of people are still making them, and a lot of people will make them no matter what. Here are some perspectives I found on the video I mentioned at the beginning, Kevin Toll's video. Already Overbooked said, "Yes, book reviews matter to me. I love talking about books, and sharing my thoughts through reviews is part of that joy. I know the numbers are not impressive, but at the end of the day, I am not here for analytics. I am here to share my experience with incredible stories. If my goal were simply to chase a bigger audience or rack up views, I would be running a very different kind of channel in a completely different niche." And on that same note, Heroic Book Adventures says, "As a viewer, book reviews are my personal favorite type of Booktube content to watch. As a result, most of the videos I make have ended up being reviews. Since I make the videos I would like to watch. But I'm probably a strange outlier because channel growth isn't something I really concern myself with. At the end of the day, anyone making videos is leaving behind something of a legacy. It's up to each individual creator to decide for themselves what legacy they wish to be known for." And I think these are wonderful perspectives, because it reminds us the book review will never be dead, because there's people who are making them just because they want to, and if people are going to watch or not, they're still going to make them, so they're still going to be there. So I guess with the question, are book reviews dead? Well, I don't think they can ever truly be dead, but if they aren't doing as well now as they were 10 years ago, we just have to decide if we're okay with that, and if that is something that we want to be true for the space that we're in. If you don't want to watch book reviews, please don't. I don't think anyone wants a captive audience. But just like I've said on my channel before, is I think that there are definitely systems that are set up to kind of work against you in a way. If you want to watch book reviews, it's really hard to choose to when every video surrounding the book review seems to be a little bit more crafted to get your attention. But it's still your choice to make. If you want book reviews to remain a really popular part of Booktube, then you just need to click on them when you see them. And I think when it comes down to it, YouTube doesn't care what makes you happy. YouTube just wants to make you happy. So it's going to show you the videos that you want to see. So if you wish the book review was more prevalent now than it is, keep clicking on them and you'll see more of them. And if a lot of people do that, I mean, book reviews could become a really important pillar again. Not that they aren't, but they could become one of the dominant forms that people engage with the space again, if you want them to be, and if enough other people want them to be as well. Those are basically my thoughts, but if you want to watch my video on the history of the dust jacket, I'll link that right here. I promise it's really interesting, even if it's not as clickable as some of my other videos. Okay,